Welcome to This Week in Warframe, a series where I keep you updated on the past week of Warframe, from announcements made by DE that don't necessarily warrant their own videos, to community fan art posts and updates. So without further ado, let's go over DE's announcements and news from the 22nd of April to the 28th. Starting this week's episode off, we had Devstream 110, where they previewed the Equinox alternate helmet, finally the model for it. If you did not know, it was previously corrupted, and this is what we have now. They also gave us a teaser image for the upcoming Sacrifice quest. There is apparently a few secrets on the image, but if you want to know exactly what they are, you can go look for that yourself, because I do believe the community has already decrypted the text that is on there. They also gave us a preview and walk around of the Venus player hub, and to transition between the hub and the open area, there will be a freight elevator that players will go up and down. And alongside the walk around of the player hub, they gave us a sneak preview of upcoming Venus NPCs and how they'll interact with the environment walking through the coolant of Venus. They also previewed an upcoming null Scrambus unit rework, just to go in line with something like the previous Commander rework, where upon charging their abilities, they'll have a unique identifier, and once the ability has been casted, in this case, it'll be a yellow orb to highlight their nullifying field. Now, as for scaling rewards in Warframe, they did touch on it in the dev stream, which I appreciate. They didn't just do their usual sarcasm and move on. And what they said was, they know that it's a topic of discussion within the community. They have a few plans, such as adding more rotations with better rewards inside of the later rotations, which if you watched the video yesterday, which is basically the clip of them discussing scaling in Warframe, and my opinion on the matter is just make it so every 20 minutes it cuts off a letter. So instead of it being AABC, it should go to ABBC, and so on. If you want to know my full opinion, go to the comment section of that video. But during this discussion, they also stated that they're not a fan of endless missions for people staying in it for an hour not to get the reward that they want, which I don't really understand because they keep introducing endless missions into the fucking game, but they apparently don't want people staying in these endless missions for God knows how long. I just can't comprehend that. And secondly, Steve also stated in this conversation that he isn't personally a fan of the current mentality of pushing through the first rotation and leaving, so going through the AABC rotation just to start the same level up and rinse and repeat the process. But once again, I keep asking myself, why the fuck do you keep introducing these game modes, and why don't you do anything about them? Either way, we'll have to wait and see what they do and how they execute this scaling reward request. Anyway, moving on, we'll also be receiving a new ceramic dagger model and PBRs for the Kraken, Gram, and the Cronin. They also showed off more of the UI 3.0, specifically with the inventory screen and how their new controller support will work, and how easy the transition is. Once again, for those that still care about the Hydroid Prime and Zephyr Prime trailers, they will be coming eventually, but they have been put on hold until Steve finishes his work on the Sacrifice. And for those interested in frame fighters, it might be playable at TennoCon, but there is no estimated time of arrival besides that. Operator hair and other character art has been placed on hold until Sacrifice gets completed. There will be a Nidus Deluxe skin coming soon. You'll be able to shoot the drivers of the Darjans on the plains of Eidolon and steal their rides after you kill them, which is pretty cool for those that actually use that stuff. Moving on, we had a bunch of hotfixes fixing numerous issues in the game last week, starting off with hotfix 22.18.4. Now, as I just said, it brought much needed fixes to Sanctuary Onslaught specifically, just like all the other hotfixes that I'm about to mention. But if you do wish to know the exact fixes made, they'll be up on the screen and links will also be in the description. Now, there were two changes that were made in this hotfix besides the fixes. First was making the Peculiar Bloom mod chat linkable, and the second was changing the Rub V Strikes one-handed stance polarity to Xenuric. We then had hotfix 22.18.5, which fixed more Onslaught issues. Most notable would be the permanent white screen. Rewards will now drop as soon as the portal opens in the Onslaught game mode, and the hotfix also brought more visual effects to Khora. In hotfix 22.18.6, they overhauled the Void Onslaught tile by adding more spawn points and improving the enemy navigation. They fixed loss of functionality that would occur if you tried launching Onslaught without a level 30 frame, and it also fixed the conduit transition effects restarting if you hopped through the portal within the last 5 seconds. In 22.18.7, it brought balance changes to the Elite Onslaught game mode, because if you did not know, the scaling was way out of whack compared to the base game. So the enemies will now start at level 60 to 70 during the first zone, and will scale upwards to 150 to 180 at zone 15. Now they also removed the damage multiplier that enemies would receive for each level gained, and made it so efficiency stimulus will no longer appear beyond zone 15. As for the game mode itself, well, Khora's blueprints have been removed from the Elite Sanctuary Onslaught rewards table, and have been replaced with Radiant Axii relics. They also removed the level 30 Warframe requirement for the basic Onslaught game mode. There is now a 20% chance of a spawning tile set having an elemental hazard occurring at the time of playing. They increased the spawns in the Corpus Gas City and the Grineer Fortress tile sets. They also removed tiles that had poor navigation. They removed lockers and containers from the tiles as well. And a prompt will now appear if you try to play Elite Sanctuary Onslaught and don't have a level 30 Warframe equipped, or you haven't completed the new Strange quest. Now for the base game changes, the Quill storefront now plays host to Cetus Wisps. So if you couldn't be bothered farming for them and you enjoy the Eidolons enough to have enough standing to purchase the Wisps, you now have that outlet available to you. They made a great change to limiting the amount of Mine Ospreys that can spawn at once to 4, and they also made more tweaks to the Haragorima Zephyr skin. And then in 22.18.8, which is the last hotfix I'll be going over, we got some more Khora changes. First of all, her casting times have been shortened. Her new passive is just Venari being out as a passive entity that provides a speed boost when she's active, and for those wondering if she is now killed, she will respawn after a specific amount of time. Now her first ability, Whipclaw, will now benefit from the melee combo counter, and hitting an ensnared enemy will now expand the snare to nearby units. And on top of that, if you use Whipclaw on a single enemy caught within Strangledome, the damage dealt will now be halved and spread to any enemy that's still alive in the Strangledome ability. Her second ability, Ensnare, now affects multiple enemies upon impact and will unleash 2 waves over a period of time that will drag nearby enemies inward. Status procs will no longer wake these enemies up as well. Now for her third ability, since Venari is now a passive, the ability now acts just like it did previously, allowing the player to switch between Venari's modes, just like you would with Vauban's Mines or Avara's Arrows. So you'll have heal, attack, or defend. Now if you have your reticule over an enemy when changing modes, specifically the heal option, Venari will attack said enemy instead of healing the player. However, if you don't have the target in sight, she will heal you. Now they have also changed her damage type from impact to slash, and her damage and abilities will now be affected by strength mods. Also, companion mods like Animal Instinct should work properly from here on out. And lastly, the fourth ability, Strangledome. Now the ability has received an animation change to better reflect that the chains are actually coming from Khora herself, and once an enemy dies from Strangledome, the enemy will drop straight to the floor instead of staying within the chains. As for the base game changes that came in Hotfix 22.18.8, your daily focus cap will now scale based on mastery rank, with each mastery rank providing an extra 5,000 focus to your daily standing, for a maximum of 350,000. And due to peculiar blooms causing game crashes with increased fire rate, it now has a limit of 5 flowers per enemy. Now in relation to that last thing, I highly suggest you watch a video by Better Name Pending that highlights what was occurring with that mod. The link will be in the description below. Anyway, back to Sanctuary Onslaught changes, because this was a rather big hotfix. The efficiency drain will now increase after reaching Zone 16 in the normal Onslaught game mode, and the drain will increase at Zone 15 in Elite Onslaught. They also added more tiers for the Onslaught enemy levels. For normal Onslaught, Zone 15 to 20 will house level 18 to 100 enemies, Zone 20 to 25 will house level 110 to 130, and Zone 25 to 30 will house level 130 to 150 enemies. As for the Elite Onslaught game mode, Zone 20 to 25 will house level 200 to 220 enemies, and Zone 25 will house level 250 to 280 enemies. Now they also removed 2 tile sets from the Onslaught rotation, and there were also 3 dev workshops that were published during the week, but all of them are basically now outdated since the content that was discussed is now in the live build of the game. But if you wish to have a read of them anyway, the links will be in the description down below. Moving on from the hotfixes, Khora's files are now available for any Tennogen creator to create whatever they want. PS4 players, there is now a contest that is live for you. It requires you to create a cinematic trailer for Share Factory using the app itself, and all of the rules and guidelines will be in the official forum post in the description. There's also a clothing sale on the Warframe merch store for those interested. It does end on the 1st of May, so there will be a bit of a limited time for you guys to pick that up, as this video does go live before that date. Moving on to developer Twitter post. First off, we have Steve showing a bit more of what their new particle system can do with what you're seeing on screen, and going off of a reply he sent, the system will be optional. You won't be forced to have these particles active. And for those who own the Scana Prime, Scott replied to a tweet asking about a buff and that there are things in the works, but there is no timeline on when those changes will occur. And to finish the video up, we have a tweet from the lead sound designer at DE posting an image of him editing together the dialogue for the Sacrifice quest, so it is getting closer with each passing day. Anyway, that concludes this Week in Warframe. If you found the video informative, make sure to leave a like. If you think I can improve upon the series, or you just want to share your opinion on the series or the topics in general, make sure you do so with a comment down below. Also, if you missed out on last week's episode, you can click the annotation on the screen and it will take you right to it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.